Hello everybody, we are back. Um this is the next chapter. I don't remember what it's called. But just I promise you it's the next chapter. So anyways, so after that, I didn't sleep at all, which was to be expected. Yeah, she didn't sleep at all due to that steamy kiss that her and Caleb had. Totally didn't see that tension coming and building up. But anyways, and now I was up early in the lounge before training, still thinking about it. I was outraged that Caleb had kissed me like that and ran, but please, he kissed me at all. His mind was a mess. He should see mine. I didn't know how long this had been building on his end, or on mine. It has been a couple of weeks, I suppose. I was at a loss of what to do about him. My emotions were anything but calm. I hated him sometimes, and others I wanted him. Ooh, girl, too much, too much. I really don't hate him, even though he could be so frustrating. I leaned against the table, cupping my chin in my hands. The thing was, that was part of the attraction, wasn't it? The constant fireworks. As obnoxious as he was sometimes, he was gentle and caring too. The dichotomy was fascinating. Ooh, that sound like Jordan Peterson. No, he's always talking about some dichotomy, girl. Ooh. The way he always encouraged me to walk my own path and not be swallowed up by Endgame. The way he worried. I wanted to talk to him more, to get to know him. I wanted to be with him more. I also kind of wanted to smack him a few times. How could one man stir this much uncertainty? But that was why I couldn't stay away from him, wasn't it? And I couldn't begin to say how he felt about me. I wasn't sure how training would go or what I would do when I saw him again. Fortunately, I was with Ari first today. I had time to spare since I hadn't been able to sleep and gotten up early, and I tipped my head back, staring at the decorative ceiling. Even amid crisis, life continued. Sorry y'all, allergies, are really bad. Relationships somehow didn't stop because there were other things to think about. A quiet sigh escaped me. You're up early today, Nori. Hello, you two. Mind if we join you? Of course not. How are you? I'm fine. Are you? That was a heavy sigh just now. I really am fine. It's okay to not be fine. Caleb has told me that before too, but I'm okay. It's also okay to be pissed at Magnus for what he pulled yesterday. I think everyone else was more than angry enough for me. I'm just frustrated he didn't ask me. I'm not unwilling to test out my abilities. I don't know why he had to pull something so unhanded like that. Because that's how he is sometimes, I've noticed. I guess I'm not the only one frustrated by how slow the investigation is going though. I understand feeling a little antsy right now and we're waiting for more information. That's no excuse for Magnus. He knows how these things go. It's not like the movies where everything happens in a few days. Things take time. Even with Bishop scoring for information, it's not like nothing is happening though, even if it feels that way. Magnus has been shut up in the meetings nonstop. At least some are about you, I think. If they're having meetings about me, it would be nice if I was invited. The council's probably still scared to meet you in person. They're the ones that made us drag you here. I bet they're afraid you'll go for their throats if you see them in person. Man. Nori, that is not true. I would imagine the actual issue is that... Sorry, my dogs just be tripping sometimes. My apologies. Nori, that is not true. I would imagine the actual issue is that Magnus and Charisse are trying their best to keep you away from them. But why? They're not... Look. People just don't want you to have to deal with them right now. You're still gaining your footing, and the moment they sink their claws in, they're great at exploiting weaknesses. No one wants you to have to face them just yet. All this being overprotective feels a little suffocating sometimes. Being excluded makes you feel like I don't belong. How can I even settle in if you all won't let me? No one is trying to do that to you. Nori, listen, we've all had bad experiences with the council, all of us. Very bad experiences. She shot Vanessa a long, meaningful look. And we've all lost people, including the last queen. No one wants you to feel left out, but queens are invincible. The fact the council sees you that way is frustrating. Because that can get you killed. We all know that from experience. And some of us are terrible about trying to shoulder burdens alone. Like Caleb. Among others, seeing you adapting is hard in some ways. It solidifies that we uprooted you and changed the course of your life. So when Magnus pulls something like that, it makes us weary. especially those of us who've come to care about you. My face heated up a little because that could mean any of them, or all of them, but from the look she was giving me, I suspected she meant Caleb. Do they already know? Ugh, what if there were cameras in the training room? I didn't even consider something like that. How mortifying. I looked away from them, chewing my lip. Is it hard having a relationship here? I looked at my hands, helplessly, not sure how to explain the sudden change in topic. I mean, are there rules? Is it difficult balancing work? Vanessa smirked at the question, and I knew I was in trouble. Is this about anyone in particular? She definitely knows. What do you think? Oh, all that spicy sexual tension between you and Caleb finally boiled over? I don't know what sort of look I gave. It was somewhere between offended and horrified, but she burst out laughing either way. Seriously, what happened? Man, come on, don't tease her. Does she look like she wants to talk about it? It was bound to happen eventually. You were just Caleb's type. At this point, I wasn't even sure I wanted to ask what that meant. Or at the very least, I wasn't sure I wanted to hear it from Vanessa. I covered my face with my hands and contemplated if I could borrow Mara's phasing teleportation to sink it to the floor and never return. Good to know. Thanks. To answer your question, they tried to make rules at the founding of the organization, but no one listened to them. I mean, we're humans, not robots. We can't really live without intimacy, and it's hard to not get attached to people we work with and live with. Several policy changes later, and most of the rules have been dissolved. As for whether it's hard, it's probably harder to hold yourself back. I mean, you never know what'll happen day to day. It took me nearly losing my life to stop holding back. She reached across the table, cradling Mara's hand in her own. Mara turned hers over, lacing her fingers with bands. I think a lot of us go through a phase of feeling like we should prioritize the mission, the ideal. But when you almost lose someone you love, you realize that holding back robs you of time, and you stop doing it. But what about when it's someone on the same team? It's not uncommon for feelings to spring up between people who work together. I think that's no different here than anywhere else. So you often find couples lurking together in the same teams or on teams that they work together a lot. When you're at our rank, there's always the threat of losing someone, Nori, but it's worth it to give it a try when an opportunity presents itself. So yeah, you know me trying to get comfortable. I'm not opposed to it, it just feels it's happening fast. I don't even know him that well. I don't think we can base things on working together. There has to be something more than that. So I'm just checking my dog. My dog is sick. Like, he has epilepsy and everything, so I just like to check on him, like, whilst I'm recording as well. Whirlwind romances are endemic here. Like I said, no one wants to lose time, but if you want my analysis on the development of romantic relationship at the top level of Endgame, I can't wait for this. People at the top want to jump right in because they need that contact with others, that comfort, and they don't want to miss a single moment of it. But there's a lot of us holding back, like Mara said. A lot of us feel like we should prioritize work and the mission. Whenever there's a mix of wanting something and holding back, things will be tense. And when things are tense, eventually people snap. I mean, I'm shocked you haven't walked in on something you didn't want to see. In the lift, in the training room, my face went hot. I guess I'm glad to hear we're not the only ones. To my chagrin, Van and Mara were sharing a look that indicated they'd worked out what happened. I buried my head in my arms and let out a long groan. I don't know what to do about it. Talk about it. Just talk to him about it. Sometimes that's all you need to do. Because Caleb has always proved to be such a reasonable man. That's why you like him, right? Resting my chin on the table, I glared up at her. That's not helpful. She was getting way too much enjoyment from watching me suffer. I had to leave for the training room right after, but Mara caught my hand as I left and assured me that they were both available anytime I wanted to talk. I thanked them before heading to the training room. At least they reiterated that I needed to talk to him and not let time pass without saying anything. And as I left the room, I cast one more look their way as they moved closer together, hands still clasped on top of the table. If anyone was an example that relationships could work here, they were. Maybe there was some small comfort in that. Unfortunately, that would be more difficult than I thought. As soon as I arrived, Ari told me I was getting a double lesson from him because Caleb bowed out of today's training session. So he's avoiding me. That wasn't fair. He was the one who kissed me, he was the one who left without a word, and on top of that, now he's avoiding me. Ari must have seen my frustration because as he motioned me to get into our usual spots for a warm-up, he sighed. I'm unsure what happened between the two of you yesterday, but it would be wise for you to resolve it as quickly as possible. What makes you think something happened between me and someone? Caleb woke me up at 5 asking me for an early morning round of Volatin. While he enjoys the sport in general, it's often his go-to activity for blowing off steam, as he puts it. He was a more difficult opponent than usual today. He totally wiped the floor with you, didn't he? That was one way to put it. Are you okay? I'm unhurt, but it was obvious something was on his mind. Based on a few comments he made, I surmised that it was you. What type of comments? He took up his usual position and began stretching. I believe it would be best for the two of you to discuss the issue together. However, he seems preoccupied with your relationship. Though I would argue he's been preoccupied with it for some time. He has? Yeah, but it's not the topic of today's training. Nori. So you should discuss it with him. Right. Sorry. I'll try to focus. I would appreciate it. There were no secrets here, were there? How long have they all been aware of this tension going on? I didn't feel we'd been that obvious about it, but clearly, and again, they were all psychics. Maybe it was just hard to conceal it. But now I was even more frustrated that Caleb was avoiding me. Ari telling me that I was a distraction for Caleb just made me even more distracted by him. I was glad Ari had bottomless patience, and when he was exasperated, the most you dealt with was a quiet sigh. I experienced the quiet Ari sigh many times. But Ari had a way of drawing me into the session, so we had an interesting discussion on my shield technique in the labs. It was a good session, long but informative. But we were interrupted about halfway through the second part of it when someone called Ari away. I apologize for the interruption. It seems I'm needed for a transport mission. That's out of a range for most other nights. No, it's alright. I'll leave the two of you to finish up then. I realized Caleb had come in at some point and had been waiting, watching us from near the door. My heart leapt to my throat. As I saw him, I suddenly didn't know where to look or what to do. Ari cast a last glance at me before he left. A tactic, I don't know, reminder to get things sorted. I didn't know how to do that. I wanted to see him. It was frustrating that he was avoiding me, and now we were in the same room, and I had no idea what to say to him. Here. He came towards me holding a small rectangular display in one hand. The official report isn't out yet, so I thought I'd bring this down to you. You might find it interesting. What is it? So we're going to take refuge and work talk for now. Right. It's an analysis of what happened in the lab yesterday. I sat by to talk with Magnus, and they roped me into a meeting. I looked down at the data on the display, a frown creasing my brow. I'm not sure I understand what this is. Caleb leaned against the wall, crossing his arms. Know anything about nano-renaissance? Renaissance. Girl, what the fuck? I may have heard Trent mention it before. Trent? He's my ex. He was studying espers, that's why he moved to Sierra last year. Huh. I see. What did Trent have to say about resonance? I don't remember much about the conversation, to be honest. Well, it's a poorly understood phenomenon. It has to do with the way PSI waves resonate within the esper's personal nanosystem. The theory is that with N-class espers, our nanites amplify our PSI. A nuclei, clusters in our brain that form the foundation of the fluoric system, inherently depends on nanites to function. That's not the case with F-class espers. So, fairies don't usually exhibit resonance in the same way. But this says, we know Aryan relics react to PSI. It's been known for some time, so when your PSI waves leveled out as if they were resonating with the relic's output, you can imagine how shocked we were. My PSI was resonating with the relic. I stared at the display in my hand, unsure what that even meant. Briefly, before everything went to hell and the damn thing exploded, the lab is going nuts with theories right now, and the council's trying to decide what to do about it. Great. I told them they weren't going to do a thing until they talked to you first and found out what you want to do about it. I gave him a startled look when he was staring off across the room, frowning. I know that's important to you. Thank you. Listen, we need to talk. Do you want to clean up and meet me in the lounge? Yeah, I'll meet you there soon. Keep that. He nodded to the display in my hand. You can read up on it later. Thank you for letting me know about this and standing up for me. It was the obvious thing to do. I'll see you in a while then. I nodded. He left me there and I exhaled slowly, staring down at the display he'd given me. Right, relics later. For now, a shower. And a much needed talk with Caleb. When I got to the lounge sometime later, Caleb was already seated on the sofa. He had a cup of either tea or coffee and was reading as usual, but he noticed me as soon as I entered. The fact he was not just waiting, but watching the door, somehow sent my heart rate through the roof. I was terrified, hopeful, confused, and excited, bundle of nerves as I joined him. Sorry for making you wait. It's fine, I didn't mind it. He nodded to the sofa and I joined him, sitting close enough we could talk comfortably without being overheard by others. Look, I hate awkward stuff, so I'm just gonna say it. First, I apologize for how I've been. I know I've been jumpy since you've arrived. There was a lot, and I wasn't sure how to deal with any of it. You or anything else that happened. Well, I can't blame you there. I've been the same. Listen, I like you, Nori. I've felt myself liking you more and more, but it's tough. I keep thinking you shouldn't be here, that we forced you to come and we made you stay, that maybe if you feel the same way, it's only because you need someone to hold on to, not because he ran a hand through his hair, not because it's me. You know, Caleb, that night at the cafe with Jack, I could have gone with him. Why are you bringing up that? I held a hand up, stopping him before he could go on to that rant. I'm just saying, I could have gone with Jack and I chose to come here. I chose this despite our not great introduction. No one forced me, I chose this. I want you to know that. I don't want to rehash that same thing. I just want to, I don't know. We could be cautious and let him finish first, or we could be affectionate and reach over. We're gonna be affectionate. I reached over to him and took his hands carefully. I've been lonely since I came here, Caleb, but not lonely enough to throw myself in the first pair of manly arms I've encountered. He scoffed at the descriptor, but the visible tension in his expression eased into a slight smile. After yesterday, I think it would be pointless to deny what's started to develop between us. I want us to stop talking about whether I belong here or whether I should be somewhere else. I want you to stop feeling guilty for it or beating yourself up. I'm here, and if I wasn't, I'd be enjoying life and doing other things. But I also would be missing out on other experiences, things I've experienced here. Nothing you've experienced here is good. I mean, the kiss wasn't that bad, as far as kisses go. The hell does that mean? That I've had worse. And better? No. Liar. Maybe a little. He turned my hand over in his, grazing his fingertips across my knuckles. The smile on his face evaporated. You're right when you say I'm scared, Nori. I'm scared something will happen to you, the way it happened to Sylvia. They treated her like she was something they could throw away. He swallowed hard and let out a shaky breath. I'd never seen him so honest before. It hurt to see the look on his face. She was only a friend and it hurt like hell. I don't know what you are to me, but I know it'll hurt worse if something happens to you. The only thing we can do is make sure I'm as prepared as possible. You can't prepare for everything. I am an overachiever, so I can do my best. It's hard accepting that's all either of us can do. I want something concrete. I hate all this unknown crap. You do realize that's just how life works. Doesn't mean I have to like it. It doesn't, but when you don't like things, you complain about them loudly. And then you complain about me complaining almost as loudly. It's a coping strategy. So let me ask you something. Okay. What is this? This? He lifted our joined hands. This. Us. I don't know if I have an answer. Are you gonna run away again? He scowled but couldn't exactly argue the point. I didn't mean to run away. I just needed to get my head straight. So it's hard to think straight when you're around me. Lately it's hard to think straight whether I'm around you or not. Oh. Now that's an expression I haven't seen before. Shut up. He went serious again, moving a little closer on the sofa. Nori, if we do this, you're gonna have to promise me something. What's that? Stop doing stupid crap. It was literally one time. I'm counting the lab incident. Fine, twice. I'm getting the sense it'll become a habit. I'm not making a habit out of anything. Let me guess. If you did ever go on some interplanetary archaeological dig, you'd be the first one running into some ancient ruins and setting off all the traps. I'll have you know, the idea that the ruins are booby-trapped is a fallacy. Such traps are quite rare. Though, there was a story of that one team setting off a security protocol. And how did that end for them? Well, let's not talk about that. I'll make a deal with you. If you try to be more careful, I'll stop. being as angry at everything. As angry? I'm a mere mortal. Don't expect too much. I remember that. Listen, there's this little cafe I like. Why don't we grab dinner there? I want to see you outside of this place more. I want us to do things together. More than work and training. Ooh. I'd like that. Does this mean is that what you want? Aw, shit. Do we want to be cautious and say I think I can take it slow for now? Affect shit. I never thought I'd date a kidnapper. Confident, yes. Or we're gonna say yes. Cause the reason why we didn't say like we weren't snarky. First of all, we don't like mixed signals. We just want it to be straight, cut, clear to the point. So yes, it is. He smiled, a surprisingly gentle smile as he nodded. So do I. I settled back against the sofa, a hopeful smile making its way to my face. So what happens now? Does anything specific have to happen? I don't know. Don't tell me you've never dated anyone before. I have. I had a serious boyfriend for several years, thank you. Trent, right? We take you from him too? You might not apologize for that one. He moved to Sierra a year ago for a research internship. I haven't heard from him since then. The look on Caleb's face was almost amusing. He ghosted you for a year. I got a birthday card from him the day the man I knew Albion attacked me, actually. Really? After ghosting you for a year, he sent you a card? I don't think I've ever had an ex-boyfriend. Wait, what? I don't think I've ever had an ex-boyfriend that brave or stupid. Why? Okay, whatever. I incinerated it. Somehow I'm not surprised. I didn't have time for that even before coming here. Good. What do you think? That was a quick transition. It's nice. I'm glad it's not that far from Corso RS. I think there would have been more of a pushback on us going out. If so, then get over it. They won't keep you locked up that way. They keep Magnus locked up. I'm glad to hear it. Given what he's like, I can only imagine how it'd turn out. You need more than a few weeks to lock up to become that twisted. One hopes. Sometimes I wonder. Wonder what? I don't know. I guess it feels like there's a lot of history the rest of you share that I know nothing about. It's disconnecting and sometimes frustrating when I think about all the history you have with others that you don't have with me. I don't think the history we have is all that interesting, but if there's anything you want to know, just ask me. I want to know everything. I want to learn about you. What was it like to grow up here? About Jack. I know you hate talking about him, but that just makes it clear how much he must have meant to you when he was here. So I want to hear about why he left, what happened to the previous queen, what happened to Van, why everyone here always acts so scared for me. I want to know. He was silent a moment, twisting his glass in his hands as he thought about it. I guess it's time you heard the story about Sylvia and Jack. I mean, hell, it's all tied up together anyways. How so? Sylvia was a sister. The previous queen was? Yeah, and when she died... No, when she was abandoned, I guess he didn't have the heart to stay. It rattled the entire organization from the ground up. I'm so sorry. There was a weariness to his tone, one that made me regret the topic of discussion. It wasn't a good first official date conversation, was it? At the same time, I couldn't help but feel this event shaped who he was, shaped him being the way he is. I wanted to know about it. I wanted to hear about it from him, and I was glad he was willing to tell me about it. But I was also sorry I brought it up. I felt his fingers under my chin making me look up at him. Don't make that kind of face, Nori. It's been 10 years already, but I think I want you to hear this, so will you listen? Of course I will. He took a deep breath. We were all kids when we met, and we all grew up together. Became friends as kids do when they see each other all the time. Jack and I both studied under the same mentor, an elite rook. He was hard on us because we were little shits and always got into trouble. But he was a good man, a good teacher. We lost him at the same time we lost Syl. Syl. Yeah, right? Okay. He was part of her guard, and Van was nearly killed. She made guard at a young age. We thought we'd lost her too when they pulled her body out of the wreckage, almost broken beyond repair. Ari lost his mentor in the same incident. He had never dealt with a loss before, and I don't think he's ever even known what to do. Sylvia. I never even found her body, and Magnus was nowhere to be found during that fiasco, not a peep out of him, and when he turned up again, we had no idea what the hell happened to him. Just that the council had finally broken him somehow. When Jack left, I guess I felt betrayed. We'd always been together, almost since we arrived here as kids. He was family, the closest thing I felt like I had. If he'd stayed, we'd have gone through Nate's loss together, but with him gone, I was just alone. Lost Nate, lost Jack, lost Sylvia. Everything was in shambles, and I had no one to rely on. No one to really talk about it with anybody. But I understood why he left, too. Part of me wished I'd gone with him. What happened back then? Not much information was released publicly about that Crimson. It wasn't Crimson. They got the blame for it, but it wasn't them. They were dealing with their own situation back at the time. Then who? Well, that's the real question, isn't it? I imagine Magnus knows, but if so, he would never let the rest of us in on it. He was a target, though. And protecting him meant the council just threw away the others, because Magnus is always more important. Because king ranks always are, and Magnus took the blame because, I don't know, who knows why he still protects those bastards. But the one truth about Endgame is that everything about this organization, everything boils down to the protecting the king. I thought Endgame was created to keep peace in mediate between the night and day sides, and that always comes back to protecting the king. Something about the way he said that. Magnus, king, the planetary AI. You might know more about this than a lot of others since you studied history, but even you won't know the full story of what happened during the founding of Endgame. A lot of records from back then were wiped or hidden away. When they first found the AI's mainframe in the waste, they named that guy King, or maybe the AI chose the name. I really don't know. Either way, it's not common knowledge anymore, I don't think. Just like most people know, they assessed the mainframe in Avalon for the first time and not one of the control centers in the domes. Frankly, King was glad to have people here. They didn't care about control, so they didn't have a problem handing most things over to the colonists. You know about the Capstone disaster? I do. I mean, it sparked a civil war after the AI interfered. History books try to make it seem like it was unreasonable, a land grab. The colonists from the third caravan were being greedy when they forced their way to the surface, but life in orbit was hell by all accounts. Anyway, when fighting broke out over what happened, King freaked out. The AI's previous people were pacifists, so seeing how humans turned on each other was a shock. Anyway, King took over control of the grid, which put a stop to fighting really fast. They lit up Delphine, shifted power to the domes of the night side, and allowed the rest of the third caravan to colonize there. Sorry. But there was no way that would be the end of it. People panicked at this AI that could take control anytime. Brazel was attacked since it was the major control hub here on the day side. All hubs went on lockdown. The attackers tried to hack in, get control of the power array, and shut down Delphi, and the AI kept control for decades. All while your Civil War was going on outside, fighting over the power supplies over land, trying to fight Avalon to take over the AI. And in the time the King rebuilt Endgame, the AI found an Endgame? They did, yeah. For their own protection and that of everyone else by default. No machine has perfect defenses. King has been hacked in the past, though I don't know the full story there. It was pre-colonization, but they wanted to protect them from that happening again. For 45 years, King gathered Espers. At the time, no one really knew that Espers existed. The first generation of them weren't anything like the modern Espers. There was so much else happening that the existence of PSI was still unknown except by the King. Because they were aware of the nanosystem and what it could do, what it had already done to make us more like Tholasans. When King realized an Esper class existed that could potentially hack their systems, they wanted to make sure those Espers were kept safe. Fortunately, King ranks are rare, and no one knows the physical location of Avalon anymore. Even if they want to find it, there are treaties keeping people out of the waste. And in Endgame 2, of course. We protect King, not the King, but since Magnus is one of the few people on the planet that can locate Avalon and interface with the AI, it kind of becomes the same thing. So, the Council is ready to throw everything away to protect him. Everything and everyone. But Crimson has a King rank too, don't they? All the non-essential control hubs were shut down and destroyed, even the one here supposedly. The King withdrew from all the subsystems when they were dormant. Magnus was a massive range within the nanosystem. He's not like Crimson's king, though I'm sure the guy has plenty of people after him as well. If anyone can find the AI, it's going to be Magnus. I had no idea about any of this. Well, that's the point, isn't it? But I don't understand what this has to do with the previous wing. The point is we fell into a trap. They wanted Magnus They wanted Magnus, and to get him, they took our queen, 2 rooks, a bishop. This was after taking out another rook in a night. They wanted Magnus in exchange for the survivors back. The council elected to sacrifice our people to protect Magnus. Van was the only one we pulled out of the wreckage. My god. That's why we're so cautious with you, Nori. Every time I think the council's gonna throw you in over your head, it terrifies me. Then we have to learn from what happened back then so it doesn't happen again. For everyone's sake. But mostly his. I didn't want him to have to go through something like that again. Not when it was clear how deep the wounds still were. 10 years or not, it was obvious every day how he was still dealing with the aftermath. I'm not worried about us learning from it. No one could tell me the council has. The council isn't out in the field dealing with this. We are. Maybe it's time to make sure they understand that. Sounds like you're plotting an insurrection. Hardly, but it's fair to question orders that put us in harm's way if these orders seem poorly thought out. Under the circumstances, I don't think you could disagree with that. I don't, but I'm just one rook. There's only so much I can do on my own. Well, and aren't you fortunate you aren't on your own anymore? He smiled as he took my hand and held it to his cheek. I am. And Caleb changed the subject. He said we weren't going out, so we could talk about work the whole time. Oh fuck. For the first time since we've known each other, he asked me about my family, about school, growing up in New Albion. I felt a little self-conscious talking about it. After all, he shared such a heavy story with me. But he listened intently the whole time, or asked questions about my brothers or my classes. About Trent. That was an interesting discussion. He wasn't overtly jealous, especially when I asked him about his past relationships, and he had to admit there were a few. But I suppose it was a little sad to realize that there was someone else out there with a history you'd never be able to share. We didn't talk about that long. Ended up being a very normal dinner date. No surprise encounters with a relic-wielding stranger. No abrupt meeting announcements. Just me and Caleb. It was nice. And I was feeling pretty good about everything by the time we headed back to the tower. Walking through the quiet streets as evening descended onto the city was lovely. Caleb's hand found mine at some point, and as he laced our fingers together, I couldn't help but be surprised and pleased at the normalcy of the gesture. It was a wonderful walk back. We were finally standing in front of my door again, and I was trying to not show how self-conscious I was, but I wondered if Van and Mara were in their place, aware of the two of us out here. Want to come inside for a bit? Already inviting me into your place? Moving kind of fast, aren't you? I struggle to believe that moving fast is something that worries you. Besides, you've already been in my place half a dozen times. Sometimes without me having to ask you inside. He grinned. Tempting, but best not. You have training tomorrow, and I know you haven't been sleeping. Better to let you get to bed. You're almost sounding like Mom. He captured my face and meant to press a kiss to my lips, gentle but with enough heat to send shivers straight to my core. I'm most definitely not your mom. Don't make me prove it. I'm extremely tempted to make you prove it. You'd have to give up on tonight's sleep. Is that supposed to make me less tempted? He kissed me again, a brief peck that left me wanting more, even though I knew he was right. I'll see you in the morning. Good night, Caleb. I watched him go with a soft smile on my face. I couldn't help but wonder if he was just going back to roam the garden due to his own insomnia. Fortunately for me, that wasn't the issue. I stayed awake for a little while, the realization of my new relationship reality washing over me. I replayed parts of the dinner over and over, but despite everything, I was asleep in what felt like no time, and I was looking forward to tomorrow a lot. And with that, everybody, we're done with this part. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.